Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Threat Intel Weekly. My name is Josh Bacon, and I'm joined by the one and only Tracy Whitlock.
Good morning.
Today, we're going to be walking you through the top stories of the week. It's just us today. Tracy, off the top of your mind, I'm curious if you have any thoughts on BMW charging customers $11,000 to access extra horsepower.
Yeah, you can go to 0 to 60 like what, 0.6 seconds faster if you pay all that money.
It might be worth it. It's kind of starting to feel like business models are just
everything's going to subscription service / recurring revenue. Got to get that recurring revenue, but it sets a bad precedent. And it started with Tesla because, they're like, oh, we've got features built in the car, but you got to pay extra to activate them.
Yeah.
And it's a terrible precedent because if it's successful, it's going to gain traction in every industry, and we're just going to be subscribing to everything.
Yeah, we've actually already seen it gain some traction in our industry. We've seen Java switch over their OpenJDK from a free community model to a paid subscription for security updates, which I didn't think Larry Ellison could hate the world any more than he does, but he proves to me every day. So
that's
I hope
caused a lot of turmoil.
Tracy, you're not a security camera guy, right?
No.
Good, because it turns out even if you are a security-minded security camera guy, you might be having a couple backdoors in your environment you didn't know about. So EUFY, owned by Anchor, has a big controversy this week when some security researchers discovered that not only were they uploading data to a cloud, they were also analyzing the data and not encrypting any API access. It's kind of a full breakfast of security vulnerabilities. We saw a security researcher not only use this unencrypted API to decrypt some of the transmissions and find out that some of the screenshots of their own face were tagged with AI tags in order to keep all of their customers tracked. Their data was being uploaded to the cloud anyway. And EUFY was one of these companies that had their entire business run off of, security-minded individuals who see problems with things like the doorbells. I'm not going to name any names that might be tracking you constantly, and just have some kind of security researcher who's working some kind of late weekend doing nothing but watching families. That's kind of the horror story for it. But what we're seeing here is EUFY coming out with a response. It is a response, basically saying that they plan to encrypt the API going forward, making no mentions of. Yeah.
Plan
to. And not only plan to encrypt the API so that you can't see what they're actually uploading to the cloud. They have no plans of removing this cloud aspect from their offering. So I don't think any security-minded individual could, with goodwill in your heart, recommend EUFY or even Anchor as a whole. You don't know. There's a saying to not attribute to malice what can be equally attributed to stupidity. We don't really know what this is in this case. Did they genuinely think that they needed to upload data to the cloud for push notifications, which is what they were saying? Or was this just a case of not really knowing what they were selling? Tracy, do you have any thoughts?
It's just they keep coming up. It's just companies more and more getting more and more invasive, and like even things that aren't supposed to do things that you tell them directly not to now. Like, right. I bought a device on Cyber Monday, and It's not supposed to remember my Wi-Fi because I have another device of that downstairs, and I hook it up upstairs and instantly connects to my Wi-Fi, has the password, and starts grabbing updates.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is things that, we're security engineers, it shouldn't take a security engineer to not be taken advantage of by a multi-million-dollar company.
Yeah.
But maybe that's regulation for another day, because as things are now, the free market is seemingly the only thing that will keep someone like EUFY from doing something like this. Moving
Yeah.
on, I'm a LastPass user. I don't like reporting on this, but it actually gives me some hope. So this is the second time this year we've actually reported on a LastPass breach. Back in September, I think August, there was another breach where we saw some source code stolen from the LastPass servers. LastPass offered, if you don't know, is password manager. All of your passwords are encrypted locally. Your master password that is used to encrypt those local passwords um, is not saved to the cloud. That's saved locally. It runs on a zero trust architecture. So even if you do lose a password, there's nothing that the actual administrators for LastPass can do for you, which kind of gives me some hope. So we saw another breach today. Mandiant was engaged in a response from LastPass to take a look at a cloud service provider linking two services, LastPass to another. They saw third-party activity in there, reported on the breach. So far, we don't know if any data was exfiltrated. We don't know what data was breached. What we do know is that no customer passwords were leaked. It's starting to feel like some customer data was leaked in the form of maybe emails. But it's, as all things go, most companies are going to suffer breaches these days. It feels like it. There are obviously things you can put in place to lessen the effect of those breaches or lessen the occurrence frequency of them. But in terms of LastPass being breached, this is kind of the best case scenario. There is no way currently for the attackers to use what they have to decrypt your passwords, right? Um, it's about as bad as an email list getting leaked. It's seeming like right now, of course. I'm trying to think of what the worst case scenario for LastPass could be, but I that would almost involve some serious mishandling of customer data. Tracy, do you have any thoughts on this?
I mean, with the way that LastPass works, with it being stored locally and being encrypted like multiple times and salted with like AES like 256, like you're not going to crack that currently. But
Yeah,
I guess the worst thing that could happen with a customer breach or a customer data breach would be like financial information.
right,
Like these are the credit card numbers that, users use for their accounts.
right. So we'll know some more about this as the days go on. Hopefully, it's nothing too bad. I think even in the worst case scenario, your passwords will still be okay. Hopefully, again, serious mishandling of data would have to occur. For instance, some universal backdoor that LastPass has that their customers don't know about, a la Sam Bankman-Fried of FTX.
To my
Yeah, maybe.
knowledge, to my knowledge, if you're locked out of LastPass, LastPass is like,
Yep, they can't help you.
we can't
But
do anything.
you consider, you think about it, that's kind of end users, right? And the basic end users. Yeah, if Mark Zuckerberg used LastPass and he got locked out, I wonder if there's anything they could do for him, right? You see what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
special tools.
Yeah, special tools. So SiriusXM Exploit lets you remotely turn on cars. You can also honk them, which is really fun. You can also unlock them. This is an exploit that basically takes email validation for the user, adds a CLRF character at the end, and you can completely bypass uh, the email validation for the client using nothing but the VIN number. And then past that, you can use the API, which I have no idea why you would program an API for a car, but whatever. You can use that to unlock the car, start it, honk it. This is something that some security researchers figured out very recently, and kind of feels like the technical version of the Kia boys. I don't know if you've seen anything about that, Tracy, but there was a physical exploit that occurred for Kias and Hyundais, and in some cities across the United States, people have been hot wiring them using nothing but a phone charger. So it looks like cars are getting less secure as we go on. I might invest in a garage. Personally, I still live in an apartment complex, so I don't know. Every time I walk out to my car, it could just be gone because someone got the MAC address for it. That's kind of concerning. We've seen this for years, though. I remember there was one scenario where some security researchers turned a guy's car off while he was driving down the highway. Did you ever see that, Tracy?
No, that sounds terrifying.
Terrifying is one word for it.
So, like, I know that a common attack now for cars is to just get an extender for remote start cars and walk near the house with one of these extenders, and it will grab your key fob signal and you
Oh,
can remote start the car and then just drive it off.
that sucks.
So
I
maybe
hate
you
that.
should invest in a Faraday cage for your car keys while you're home.
Yeah, okay. Ladies and gentlemen, if your garage isn't completely covered in 3-inch thick lead, I think you're making some serious security mistakes, and Volta can help you. So please contact us. Moving on to our final story. Windows
Go
updates
for it.
November through December. Tracy, you're our guy. What do you got for us?
Okay. So let me preface this with just like the October Windows updates weren't great. They weren't, I'm not gonna not install them bad, but they were like, ooh, this is not fun. And I think there's been 4 months where Microsoft has this year now, where Microsoft has just completely borked their updates. And
Mhm.
November is the newest one. We'll see what December has in store for us. So, all right. Newest thing that broke is ODBC SQL server drivers can actually break the connection with their SQL database. So
That's
that's
a big one.
fun. That seems important.
Yeah,
Um, Windows 11 clients can experience the following issues, but I don't think it's limited to these. Task Manager becomes unreadable.
huh?
Uh, yeah, Task Manager just doesn't, you can't read it anymore. Just doesn't work.
Fantastic.
11, Windows 11 just freezes.
Great.
Um, RDP broken, Windows 11,
Awesome.
it freezes. And yeah, um, now back onto the servers again. That's not SQL issues. There's LSAS memory leak issues,
Yeah,
which is fun.
that's
And there
fun.
was Kerberos authentication can also break on Windows Server, and this affects all versions of Windows Server.
No way. So
So
nothing works.
they released an out of band patch for Kerberos to fix that, but it made the LSAS memory leak worse. And now domain controllers are randomly rebooting because they're running out of memory. And sometimes they don't do the reboot part. They just shut
Really,
off
really. So nothing
domain
works.
controllers. No,
If RDP let's see, RDP, SQLite, SQL servers, um, nothing works. You can't
it
actually, the task manager freezes.
it makes doing patch management really difficult because like Microsoft is fixing a bunch of 0 days and like vulnerabilities, but you have to be like, security or like my network being online.
I don't
And it
understand.
creates this horrible dichotomy that's like, well, if we try and be more secure, we might bring the whole network down.
Right. Has
But if we're
Microsoft put
not
out
secure, the whole network might go down.
a has Microsoft put out a block for this update yet?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, we definitely don't recommend updating Windows servers for the foreseeable future, which is a heavy recommendation because, of course,
Mhm.
security patches are in those too. But it just doesn't seem like your environment is going to work
I
with these
feel like
updates.
I don't disrecommend updates entirely, but I will say I think for each individual patch management like person or team, you really need to take a deep look at your environment
Yeah.
and be strategic about these updates.
Yeah.
And
But
I hate that. I wish it would just be, I can install the security updates.
yeah. I mean, it feels like a big enough task already getting something like a WSUS server or manage engine working just so you can actually patch an entire environment all at the
Yeah.
same time. With this extra layer of not even knowing if the updates are going to work or if they're altogether going to break your environment. I recommend obviously that you have a change control process in place for dealing with these, for understanding or for letting your system administrators know we need to hold off for another month and there's a process in place for that. Maybe also a process in place for when you are holding off on those updates, still installing security patches as they come out. But besides that, it kind of looks like Windows is just having a rough end of the year here. Hopefully they'll get some new hires next year and things will start looking a little brighter.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm getting more and more deep into the Microsoft world, and I personally love architecting Microsoft and setting up all its myriad of products because they have a phenomenal range of products and they're very powerful. I just I think they need some more QA testers.
They need something because this is nearly inexcusable, especially considering that Windows 11 by itself was a completely unforced error. No one told you to put that out. No one wanted you to put that out. And now that you have put it out, it's a bugged out mess.
Every
So,
month there's some dramatic issue with Windows 11.
yeah. Well, we'll keep you posted. We'll let you know when things are fixed, when things probably inevitably aren't fixed, and get those change processes in place. Make sure your environment is secure. If you have anything for Volta, we have our email up on the screen. Just let us know. Contact us if you have any security needs, and we're going to be doing this same thing in a couple weeks from now. So we will see you then.